to walk around with my testosterone at 950? What bad thing is going to happen if I do that?
I don't think any. That doesn't mean we don't ignore follow-up blood work, do all the things, keep an eye on their CBC, keep an eye on their lipids, but testosterone oftentimes improves lipids. And part of that is because it increases estradiol, which is very cardioprotective.
Yes. I mean, besides the prostate cancer, what are the concerns from the urological community?
What I hear from patients that see urologists, and that may be before they wound up seeing us, but they're told you're going to have heart disease or you'll cause a heart attack, you'll have a blood clot, you'll have a stroke. You still hear that some. It doesn't seem as prevalent as it used to be. But that's how I would answer that, not really knowing the main things that are out there. They don't talk about too much of that in this paper.
Well, I think they may have gotten past that by now. Is an elevated H&H an actual concern? Hematocrit and hemoglobin is what H&H is, and this is a common value on a normal blood panel. And I have heard that an elevated H&H is a precursor to a stroke. What tell us about that, Mike? I'm concerned about that.
Well, testosterone will
scary.
stimulate that. It'll stimulate red blood cells.
Yes.
That's one of the advantages of it. That's why runners and cyclists and swimmers, endurance athletes would be interested in taking anabolic steroids and testosterone. You know, they don't want to squat 600 pounds, but they might want to run 3.5 hours. And if you have more red blood cells, you're going to have a better oxygen carrying capacity to your muscles, and you're not going to get as tired as easily.
Right.
We knew all of that when we were training, but we weren't thinking about, we had an easier time getting through our workout. We were able to do more sets and total reps and all that because our concern was the 1 rep max.
Right.
So, yeah, we could train more and do more work while we were on cycle than we could otherwise, but we weren't measuring, we got 20 sets done in an hour when it used to take us an hour and a half. That wasn't a concern.
No, that wasn't really one of the metrics that we applied to this.
No, but to these people, it is. That's why the military will sometimes do altitude training if they're going to deploy to a high altitude theater. Several of the guys we see have done that while they were in the service. The old days, the boxers, fighters always went up to the mountains to train. That was part of it. Anybody that's been on a vacation to the mountains, they don't feel good for a couple of days. That's because of the thin air. Their body's deprived of oxygen that it's used to having. It figures that out real fast, and it fixes it by increasing red blood cells.
Right.
So after a couple of days, you feel good. And some people will even notice when they come home on vacation, they feel really good because they've got these extra red blood cells. They just take it as, boy, that was just a great vacation.
Great vacation. I sure am relaxed and tanned and ready to go here.
On energy, you feel good. Meanwhile, all these guys living in the mountains or at altitude, even something like Denver, they'll have elevated hematocrit and hemoglobin, and they live that way year round, and they need those extra red blood cells. But they don't have an increased risk of heart disease, strokes. In fact, they have a longer life expectancy than those of us that are down at sea level, they have a decreased risk of heart disease than those of. I've read the studies. It was very interesting, but there's a difference. It's a significant difference. I think it's lifestyle. I don't think it has anything to do with having a higher hematocrit. I don't think that helps them live longer. I just don't think it hurts them like we think it does.
Well, that's an interesting. That's a very interesting observation. If an elevated H&H in and of itself was a risk for stroke, anybody living in Leadville, Colorado, is a dead man. They're at 10,000 feet, right? People all over the Himalayas would be falling down dead of stroke. You know, because they obviously, if they live there, they've got an elevated H&H, don't they? Join us this week on Starting Strength Radio. We are going to review a paper that is titled Evaluation and Management of Testosterone Deficiency, published in the American Urological Association's journal. And we're going to talk about this with Dr. Mike Whitmer. Mike's been on the program with us a couple of times, and he's a very valuable resource with regard to testosterone supplementation, and he does a lot of that. That's his primary practice, and he is going to give us some very, very useful information about this topic. So you be here with us this Friday on Starting Strength Radio.